Well, joining us now, Mihir Bose, the senior sports journalist, Farooq Engineer, the former India cricketer, Sarvesh Shashi, and I'm joined by the cricket commentator Chetan Narula as well. We'll talk about India's fantastic performance in Perth in this particular game. But I think, Mihir, what I'd like to talk to you first is the birth of the hottest property in international cricket, Yashasvi Jaiswal. It's one thing to play an incredible innings, but I think it's time that we talk about his background. The fact that he lived in a tent for approximately 3 years, the fact that he didn't have access to a proper bathroom, the fact that he had to sell pani puris for survival, right? What does it say about the character of that boy to go through all of that? He's spoken about being beaten up, right? And then end up doing this in Australia. And it's not just this.
Well, you've made a very good point. He grew up in Azad Maidan, and I think that I would have been a great cricketer because I played my first cricket in Azad Maidan had I had pani puri, but I missed out there on that score. But seriously, I think what it shows is a new India that has emerged. The new India, which is willing to work hard, which is willing to put its mind to what it wants to achieve, and which is willing to exploit whatever little opportunities it has. It doesn't give up. And the whole victory, the whole way he batted, he had acquired a reputation internationally anyway, though he had scored centuries and so on in Test cricket, that he was a bit of an IPL player, a man who went out hitting sixes and so on. But what he showed in this innings, as Jasprit Bumrah says, how he can pace himself, how he can control himself. And all that coming from learning cricket at Azad Maidan, and Azad Maidan is a wonderful ground. I used to see it every day driving to my school at St. Xavier's, Sunil Gavaskar school. So it was a great ground for him to learn. At one of the centers of world cricket, and the dedication he's shown is remarkable, because he should now be a role model for anybody in India who wants to do well in cricket. How you go about it, how hard you work, and how willing you are to make sacrifices for that ultimate aim of getting to the top of Everest.
The top of Everest, absolutely. Chetan Narula, at the age of 10, his uncle brought him to Mumbai, city of dreams. And like millions of other young Indians, he just had that one dream that I want to play. I want to play for India. And the adversity that this child, he was a child then, he's not very much more than a child now, went through in his life, it sort of indicates a strength of character and mental strength at an incredibly young age. I'm not even talking about his cricket as yet. I'm talking about him as a human being. What does it say about this human being, this person?
Well, it shows his determination to succeed, determination to learn cricket, to enjoy cricket, to overcome the adversity of life, really. I remember when he scored his first double hundred in Visakhapatnam, and Sarfaraz Khan was at the other end, another Mumbai cricketer, and he was on 198, and he was like, I have worked very hard in my life, so run very hard. Run as hard as you can. Let me get those 2 runs. Let me get to my first double hundred. And then he celebrated in his unique style. So it just goes to show, he knows what he has been through. And that's molded him as a person, molded him as a character, molded him as a cricketer. And now he's reaping the reward of it, reaping the benefit of it. And the big thing is, it's just the start of his journey. And we expect this journey to be a very long one.
Sarvesh, isn't it one of the most beautiful aspects of Indian cricket that you've got people from different walks of life across the country? Some are rich, some are poor, some are extremely poor. Some speak English, some don't. Nattu from Tamil Nadu had a huge communication problem. He didn't speak Hindi, he didn't speak English. And yet, when India comes together, it's the finest example of a nation coming together. And I can't think of a better example than Yashasvi Jaiswal, From nowhere, he's become an international star.
Yeah, I think I would actually describe his life in just 3 words, right? And I call it the 3 Ds, which is dedication, discipline, and determination. I don't think there is anything else that can summarize Yashasvi Jaiswal's life, career, everything And it all boils down, and not just in cricket. I played cricket for 17 years of my life, and it's not only in cricket, right? Anything that we do, the work ethic is so important. The practicing, I'm of course, after my cricketing career, I started teaching yoga. So we say that yoga is not life on the mat, but life off the mat. So it's actually what Yashasvi does before he enters into that 22-yard pitch and faces that ball and takes that stance, etc. The work ethic that happens before is something that we all need to learn from in any part of our lives. And no matter whether you're rich, poor, what's your family background, wherever you are, if you don't have that work ethic, I don't know of people who've seldom reached that stature in whatever they're doing.
Sure. Farooq Engineer joins us now. Do we have Farooq? Yeah, okay. Farooq Engineer joins us. Farooq Saab, wonderful to speak to you as always. I thought we'd talk about India's performance in the Perth Test match, but I've ended up speaking only about Yashasvi Jaiswal. And I've not spoken about Yashasvi Jaiswal's cricket at all. I've just spoken about his humble background. And the fact here is a kid who came from UP, from a small village, at the age of about 10 to 11, sold pani puris at Azad Maidan, lived in a tent, and is now the hottest property in Indian cricket. What does it say, Farooq Saab, about this little boy?
Well, you're talking about my favorite dish, pani puri. My mouth's watering now.
I'm talking about Jaiswal. You're talking about pani puri.
Living in England.
But go right ahead.
But listen, pani puri is just as important. Don't forget that.
Got it.
I have always had nothing but the highest regard for young Yashasvi Jaiswal. He was in Dilip Venksakar's academy. I think Dilip helped him because from a poor family, Venksakar Academy helps all these youngsters. And Dilip has always said that he saw that talent in him. And he always had the highest praises of. I can see why. Because all the more credit that he's from such humble beginnings. Siraj's father was a rickshaw driver, isn't he? So, it's absolutely fantastic to see that youngsters like that are playing a privileged person's game, which used to be, in India. My father was a doctor. He wasn't a millionaire or something like that. So, but to see pani puri walas and rickshaw drivers and their children come to such great heights and earn good sums of money thanks to IPL, so they're able to return the favor to their parents and to Indian cricket. He's made Indian cricket proud. I wish him nothing but absolute huge success. And he's bound to. He's got so much talent in him. And, he's just going to go from places to places. Itna talent hai, ye ladke mein. And Dilip has never stopped singing his praises. I've never met the young man, but I raise my hat to him. He'll bring many more kudos for his family, for Indian cricket, and for cricket in general.
Yeah.
Yashasvi Jaiswal is a name to reckon with. Yeah. He'll have a tremendous future, without a doubt. He's had a tremendous start, and I wish him all the best. God bless him and his family.
Mihir Bose, has there been a change in the profile of Indian cricketers making it into the India Test team over a period of time? Have we seen people from less affluent backgrounds make the mark, or has there always been a mix and diversity in the team?
There used to be a bit of diversity, but actually there was also a lot of snobbishness in Indian cricket. If you think about it, this is the India. My generation was the Midnight's Child generation. We were born just as India was becoming free. And we were brought up to believe that you had to speak English. Now what happened? Jasprit Bumrah is interviewed after the victory. He speaks Hindi. Jaiswal speaks Hindi. I remember the last series, the test match in England, where the Indian cricketers spoke in Hindi, and they were not embarrassed by it. In fact, actually, the English cricket correspondents who couldn't understand a word of it had to ask us what they had said, you see. And, that was a very interesting situation. This is a new, confident India, which is getting rid of the shackles, if you like, of the colonial hangover. And what is also happening, and what happened in the earlier days, for instance, and Farooq played under him, wonderful cricketer, Nawab Patodi, he was part of, if you like, that princely clan that was there. Farooq himself comes from a well-off middle-class family, so did Gavaskar, so did many of these cricketers. And at that stage, for somebody from the absolute sticks to come through, they wouldn't have had the opportunity, they wouldn't have been given the confidence to stand up to people who could speak English well, who came from a more educated background, or what was considered a more educated background. But now I think that situation has changed. And I think this new India that is emerging is really a very vibrant one, and one that fills me with a great deal of pride, though I don't live in India like Farooq. But, it makes me think that we are going forward as a nation to somewhere where we could reach our peak, and both in cricketing terms and in other areas.
My friend Mihir has made a very, very good point there. Why people, they should have never been ashamed to speak in your own national language. We are proud. We Indians are a very proud nation, and Hindi is our national language. And to speak in Hindi is a huge matter of pride. Whenever I hear interviews, in Hindi, Jasprit Bumrah speaks excellent English, and he's a very refined guy. But at the same time, he took that opportunity to speak in Hindi, which is good. He was showing his originality. He was proud of his nation. And I'm so glad that he's done so well as captain, to beat Australia by 200 and so many runs in the first test. After losing the toss, they elected to bat, to put us in. And tremendous victory for India. Hugely proud of our cricketers. But Mihir made a very good point about the colonialization and the changeover and all that. Now we had Eknath Solkar, one of the finest close-in fielders ever. His father was a groundsman, Mali, who hardly earned any. And we knew that, and we protected him all the time. He didn't speak very good English. He didn't have to, because the way he held those catches was better than reading Shakespeare. So, we were so proud of Eknath Solkar. And if his family are listening, we miss him big time. He was a great, I think he was the best close-in fielder we ever had. People talk about the spinning quartet and the wicket keeper, or that I was behind the stumps. But Eknath Solkar, standing there, actually made the spinning quartet by holding those catches, by standing up there, bravely taking knocks all over his place. We didn't have any helmets those days. So, people forget that these days.
Yeah.
But Mir, you made a very good point, and I'm equally proud of you that we are fellow Indians, although we're living in England. Dil se to desi hai bilkul. Haath se khana khate hai. And you mentioned pani puri. My mouth is watering still.
All right. What wonderful stories from Mihir and Farooq Saab. Chetan, I dare say, I think it's time we should turn our attention to his batting as well. Though I'm a bit reluctant because these stories are fabulous. But it just strikes me that in as much as he's an attacking batsman, and we've seen that in the IPL, his ability to defend and his ability to leave outside his off stump, particularly in Australian conditions and one of the toughest pitches in the world, means that he's got a complete game. Now, it's very difficult for a 22-year-old to have a complete game. What strikes me is that he's only going to get better, and he's already got so much, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, talking about his game in particular, he has this thing about attacking a little too early. And in the series against Bangladesh and New Zealand, there were a couple of dismissals when he got out early in that fashion, attacking the swing bowling early on. And in the first innings, he got out for a duck in a similar fashion, trying to attack too early. And this small improvement in the second innings, where he decided not to attack at all for the first 10, 15 overs, just to take his time and bed in for the long innings, that just kind of shows the mature head on his shoulders. if I could borrow from Farooq Saab and from Mihir sir, Khadoos cricket from Mumbai, attached, amalgamated with the attacking cricket that today's youngsters can play, thanks to the IPL, thanks to the demand of T20 cricket, thanks to the demands of modern day cricket. Combine them together and you get somebody like Yashasvi Jaiswal. So the temperament is there, the maturity is there. And as I said in my earlier comment, his journey has just started. And I think we should be really excited that we've got an all-format batter for the next 7 to 8 years if he's managed properly.
And Sarvesh, what strikes me is that he's not a one-innings wonder by any means. The fact that over the last 1 year, he's in the history of Test cricket, as I understand it, number 4, after 15 Test matches, right? He scored more runs after 15 Test matches than anybody other than 3 cricketers in the history of the game. It just goes to show that he's consistent beyond words, right?
Well, again, I circle back to what I said earlier, right? Work ethics. And like he rightly said, the way he got out in the first innings, I think the immediate learning that happened between the first and the second innings is fundamentally work ethics. It's fundamentally discipline, dedication, determination. And that really comes across in his batting. And I think he's also very fearless. Like when Mitchell Starc comes to him and says, hey, and looks at him and he says, the ball was really slow. He knows how, as a 22-year-old, he also knows how to play with the minds of bowlers and legends like Starc. So I think the overall mental, physical fitness that he's carrying and he's taking to the pitch is phenomenal. It's just outstanding, and it's really amazing to watch more than anything else, right? It's just great to understand the mindset. If I had an opportunity to talk to him, I'd say, listen, what's going on in your head? Like, what was going on in your head all this while? I'd like to just have that conversation, not about his cricket, not about his batting, but just what's going on in his head would be fantastic to know. And if you're hearing this, please let us know.
Sarvesh made a very good point.
Farooq Saab, the fear of failure seems absent among this generation, and it seems absent in the head of this kid. I think that's one of his biggest attributes. He's not worried about failing, he just bats.
Well, this is where the captain and the selectors would give you confidence. Go out there and play your game. Go and enjoy it. Play your natural game. Don't try and be afraid of failures. You're playing shots. But that shows the young man's confidence. And Sarvesh made a very good point about learning. He is a very quick learner. And that's very important. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We will go on making mistakes. But the one that makes fewer mistakes is a better batsman or a better cricketer or a better person in life, really. So, he's learnt very quickly. He's very matured for his age. And that is the greatness of the young man, because he's learned from his mistakes, and he's not afraid. He's confident of playing his shots. And all credit to the management for encouraging him to do so.
Yep.
That's the right way of going about it. Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and sharing the feelings of so many across this country on the success of this young man, where he's risen to and how he's managed to do that. It is a story of incredible grit, the best of being an Indian.